Reports reaching us directly from the Nigerian police indicate that, yes, there are guidelines for the protest set to start on the 1st of August. However, these guidelines do not include a curfew for protesters, so please disregard any contrary information, including our earlier broadcast stating otherwise. According to the guidelines for the planned protest set to begin on the 1st of August, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, stated that protesters are required to provide details of their proposed route, their assembly point, the duration of the protests, names and contacts of protest leaders and organizers. Let's take a look.
Acknowledge the constitutional right of Nigerian citizens to peaceful assembly and protest. However, in the interest of public safety and order, we urge all groups planning to protest to provide necessary details to the Commissioner of Police in the state where protest is intended to take place. To facilitate a successful and incident-free protest, they should please provide the following information. 1. Proposed protest routes and assembly points. 2. Expected duration of the protest. 3. Names and contact details of protest leaders and organizers. 4. Measures to prevent hijacking by criminal elements, including key identifiers for possible isolation of potential troublemakers.
And on that note, we welcome you to Breakfast Central. There you have it, the speech detailing what the guidelines are regarding the curfew, a conversation that has been ongoing and still continues, even as we count down to the 1st of August to see whether or not the protest will hold. On that note, I welcome you to Breakfast Central. I am Olive MOD.
And I am Osaogi Ogbowan. It's a very interesting Tuesday morning here on Breakfast Central. Remember, you can join us in the second half of Breakfast Central. Share your thoughts with us on any of the conversations that we're having this morning, either via our phone lines, which will be on your screen, or simply on social media at News Central TV. And of course, just before we get into breakfast headlines this morning, in quick reaction, not much to say, because I think most of what needs to be said has already been said concerning the protest. It's 2 days away, if it will happen or not. But of course, I have constantly criticized the Nigerian government's reaction to it, which has not necessarily been to calm the nerves of Nigerians across the country and those who want to protest, but instead creating new ways and means with which to convince them otherwise, and mostly, by creating, new groups. I saw a post yesterday of Nigerian women or Nigerian female society for something, inclusion and one thing or the other. Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw the placards where they say,
say no to protest.
Yes,
yes.
all that.
And I feel like it's counterproductive. Is it not ironic that you're trying to stop something and you're doing the very same thing that you're trying to stop?
And we saw, bits of, of that here in Lagos as well. But my point is, with that particular one is, I did Google that name and it doesn't exist. There's nothing that comes up on Google with that name, the Nigerian Women's Society or Women's Society for Inclusion or whatever the name is. It doesn't exist. There's no group like that. So it's possible that group was formed 72 hours ago or 48 hours ago just for it. So
they've registered their name at the CAC, and
I don't even know that there's anything like that. It's really just, take this, group, create something on your laptop, take it to someone to print, make placards with it and take it out there. But if the group exists, I would love to see, that they actually do exist. I just remember that I did Google yesterday and that group doesn't exist. But regardless, the Nigerian government's reaction to it has been the same, with the APC government right from 2014, 2015. The same reaction that they have towards anybody who decides that they want to protest, which is to either allegedly fund a counter-protest or try to, emotionally blackmail Nigerian citizens, into it or into not protesting. And there still has not been any actual statement from the current Nigerian government that is convincing enough to the Nigerian people as to why they should not protest. There's not been any conversations from Mr. President himself at a time when citizens are saying that they want to protest on the 1st of August. Today is the 30th, and we still haven't heard from our president, Bola Tinubu. I mean, I think earlier in the week, or sometime last week, I was saying that it would be nice to hear from the president, that this is a time when he should be speaking with Nigerians, not through spokespersons, not through imams, not through governors, not through Asari Dokubo, not through anybody.
And
but the president himself should be speaking with Nigerians.
Because it's the same call that we saw the young Kenyans asking for. They asked for the president to speak with them. And I do feel that whilst the reasons for the protest are very, very legit. Sometimes the body language of the government can communicate that you understand the pain of the people. In some way, make them feel like, okay, whilst we can't completely fix the challenges, but we understand and we're with you. So yes, hearing from the president will do a whole world of good. But also to mention that, you know, the protest to stop a protest is quite... It's ironic, and I don't want to use the words that come to mind. But
yeah, but nobody's surprised, and that's why I said, you know, the APC government's approach has been the same thing, you know, right from 2015. Whenever there is a threat of a protest, there's always a counter-protest. I remember that, you know, the likes of Aisha Yusufu and many others, Deja Deonju, you know, they all had, you know, similar experiences every time that they, you know, meet Unity or Eagle Square rather in the FCT. They always had a similar experience where you see up on the other side of the road a counter-protest. Even when there was a protest against a particular pastor who was accused of sexual assault, if you remember in the FCT, there was a counter-protest. You know, so it's the same approach that they always have. Nobody's, you know, surprised. You know, it's only maybe disappointing, you know, for some people to see that, you know, there's a group of people who feel, you know, the other way. But of course, you know, whichever side, both sides have a right to protest.
And we've seen arguments for and against the protest. Whilst many people would express their opinion, the fundamental thing that we all agree with is the fact that the right to protest is a right that is guaranteed to Nigerians as enshrined in the Constitution. The fear and the concerns, however, that have been expressed by those who do not support the protest are the likelihood of it erupting into chaos and anarchy, they state, taking reference from previous protests, the NSAS in particular protests, where we did see that there were people who went into shops to vandalize. Who these people are is another cause for conversation. Were they part of the protesters? Were they hoodlums that were planted to intentionally disrupt the protest? These are the questions that have been asked, and, you know, the perspectives that have been raised for and against the protest. But we'll get into the top story later to talk more about the protest. For now, let's share with you what our top stories are.
This morning, Nigerians are divided over August 1st and bad governance protest. We've seen counter-protesting, you know, against them. NCC orders telcos to reactivate all barred phone lines as Nigerians over the weekend found out that they, you know, seemingly lost control of their lines. President Tinubu approved sale of crude oil to Dangote in Naira. We're going to be looking at that as well. And of course, fuel price hits 1,300 Naira per litre as the depots run dry. We'll also be taking you through the newspaper front pages this morning, sharing with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria. Welcome to Breakfast Central. And now we begin breakfast headlines in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu has instructed the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery and other refineries in Naira. This directive, announced on Monday by Presidential Advisor Bayo Onanuga, aims to stabilize fuel pump prices and the dollar-Naira exchange rate. The Federal Executive Council has approved this move, with the NNPCL committing to supply 4 out of the 15 crude cargoes required by Dangote Refinery annually. And staying with the presidency, President Bola Tinubu has signed new Minimum Wage Act into law. Meanwhile, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has announced that the new national minimum wage will be applicable nationwide. Akpabio commended the president, saying the action is a victory for Nigerian workers and proof of his commitment to improving the well-being of Nigerian citizens. And let's also tell you that the Senate President Godswill Akpabio has called for an emergency meeting of the Senate. A circular signed by Clerk Chinedu Akubueze on Monday stated that the meeting is of national importance but did not provide further details. The meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 31st, 2024, just a day before the planned nationwide protests against hunger and hardship. The National Assembly had begun a 7-week recess and was expected to reconvene on September 17, 2024. Now let's bring you more updates on the planned nationwide protest. The federal government has declared that the upcoming nationwide hunger protests scheduled from August 1st to 10th, 2024 are no longer necessary. The Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, made this announcement following a Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu. Idris emphasized that the government is actively addressing the protesters' concerns and is committed to ensuring food availability. Now, away from Nigeria, people in Guinea have been sharing their hopes for justice to be done as they await a local court's verdict on Wednesday in the historic trial of the 28 September 2009 massacre at a stadium in Conakry. According to a UN-mandated commission of inquiry, at least 156 people were killed, 109 women were raped, and hundreds were wounded in the darkest chapters of the West African nation's history. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Stay with us as we head back now to our top stories on Breakfast Central. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
Welcome back. Fuel queues have once again resurfaced in the nation's capital, Abuja. Motorists who spoke to News Central said they spent long hours on the queues as it's becoming more difficult to buy fuel. They say that they are being forced to patronize black marketers who are using the opportunity to raise their prices between 1,100 and 1,300 per litre. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
This is the most popular NNPC fuel station located here at the Central Business District, Abuja, where a litre of petrol is sold for 617 naira. Now that means a lot of motorists patronize the station. Unlike yesterday where the motorists say they came in here to buy fuel without any stress. They said this morning they woke up only to find out that the queues are resurfacing. A situation they say they find disappointing and are not finding funny at all. Black marketers resisting arrest by law enforcement agents. Many of them seem to be having a field day as the fuel queues resurface in the nation's capital, Abuja. The motorists have no option but to patronize them.
I was even expecting for up to 30 minutes, but the situation on ground now, the management made us to understand that it is only two pumps working. They came up with something, Tali. So I don't know what it stands for. It is only when I get to the station then I will not know. But I just pray so that before my time, because it can finish any moment from now, although I have gone around within the other filling station, no one here now is selling apart from this, within this axis.
I was here around 10 o'clock, but the light is moving small, but it's not much. And then now I'm near the filling station. Maybe between 30 minutes or 15 minutes I can get the fuel.
And as we speak, I wouldn't say why I am on this queue, because every 2-3 months I pass through this road and I get my fuel, maybe spending like between 10 and 15 minutes, depending on the number of vehicles that are in the station. But this morning, waking up to buy some fuel, and seeing this queue is just a big shock. Actually, I've not gone close to the filling station to ask why we were having this queue, but I believe it may be as a result of this impending protest. They are trying to, reduce movement on that day.
I've been around like 2.5 hours now, queuing, just to have fuel here. So I don't know what is the actually cause of the fuel scarcity. I don't know, I cannot say.
Honestly, it's not a very funny experience. I've been here for like close to 2 hours now. I have businesses to attend to. Today is Monday, and I'm supposed to go around checking on my business and be productive. You look at me, standing here or sitting here, waiting here just to buy fuel. I don't know how we got to this point.
I woke up this morning with the normal intention of going to work, and then dropping off my family in their, where they are going to, only to realize that my fuel wasn't going to take me. So I said, okay, let me just stop over to, any filling station as usual, and then just get refill and then, set off for my daily activity. And I realized that every filling station I passed, this is the situation.
Some of them expressed their displeasure, but make suggestions on how to bring an end to the recurring fuel queues.
What I'm after is that they should please support Dangote Refinery so that we can, at least those kind of queues can at least crack down.
If we have leaders who have the interests of the citizens at heart, I'm sure situations like this wouldn't have, come to play in the first place. So it's really disappointing. I'm not really happy.
There are some people down there, who are benefiting from all these problems that we are facing in this country, who are trying to jeopardize his efforts. I say, please, Nigerians, we should wake up. Whoever wants to make this country, better should be encouraged, especially one like Dangote.
The government should do all it can to make sure that we refine what we produce.
It is anticipated that these queues will reduce in coming days, as government is saying to be making effort round the clock to reduce the hardships of Nigerians ahead of the Thursday, August 1st nationwide protest. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
Thanks to Emmanuel Bagudu for that report from the Federal Capital Territory. And of course, it's pretty much the same thing here in Lagos, I believe in other parts of the country as well. And, I think the general view is that Nigerians do not deserve that, to spend 2-3 hours in a petrol queue, get into a petrol station at 2-3 a.m., just so you can, be able to buy some petrol in the morning. And it's not because this petrol is cheap. This is still petrol selling for 700, 750, even 800, over 1,000 naira per litre.
Now we're hearing that negotiating between 1,001 and 1,003 with the black marketers. Because for those, how many people can actually stay on this queue for long, especially when you have to go to the office or you have to do business that deals with you using your cars? So
nobody even should be on a queue. Some people can, of course others can't. So if you can't, you have to buy from black market, which is 1,000, 1,300, 1,500. But the point is, nobody should be on a queue for 2 hours to buy petrol in Nigeria.
We don't deserve that.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
But yeah, this is where we are. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this morning on Breakfast Central. In more of a surprise move, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has directed telecommunications companies to immediately restore all phone lines barred due to the unverified national identification numbers linked to SIMs. The decision comes after millions of subscribers were cut off from telecommunication services over the weekend, sparking widespread frustration and speculation about the government's motives.
The NCC had given telecom operators a July 31st deadline to bar all lines with unverified NINs. However, the regulator has now extended the deadline, giving subscribers more time to complete the NIN verification process. This morning, we're joined by the chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, Alton, Benga Adebayo. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Can you talk to us about why exactly we have had this happen over and over again? We've had calls for people to link their NIN to their SIM, and even in situations where many said they have obliged and they've gone to actually link their NIN to their SIMs, there have been documentations or there have been records of their line being actually barred. So maybe can you talk to us about why this keeps happening over and over again and what it's telling about us?
We have been on this journey since 2020, and directive has been issued that people should link their SIM registration record with us with their NIN record with the National Identity Commission database. And over we've made announcement, we've made notification asking people to go and link their SIM record with us with their NIN record. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't comply. And we came to the end of it by April this year, but we saw 3 months extension from the regulator, and they granted us extension at the 1st of July. So what we have seen happen in the last few days is an attempt to comply with the regulatory directive to buy any line that doesn't have NIN integrated with their record, and have them go and do so before they are unbarred. So the action that took place has been before this discussion around protest or no protest, and it has nothing to do whatsoever with the protest. And that's where we are. It's just unfortunate that over and over again, despite of the series of notifications being given to people, a number of people have just refused to go and have their NIN record linked with their SIM record, and it's just not working. And that's where we got to where we got to.
Yeah, I mean, but can you also share with us, what the numbers are like? What is the backlog, the number of subscribers that still have not been linked to their NINs, that were cut off?
We might be looking at something in the region of about 20 million subscribers across the network. Again, that's subject to confirmation from the record provider to our regulator. But the number is quite significant. But what has happened over the weekend is that the impact is on about 5-6 million subscribers over the last weekend. And I think unless we all agree that this is something that we have to do in our national interest, we will see where we are. At some point, we need to draw the line on this name-same linkage. And I will tell you what we are seeing. People are saying that they have done their linkage, they have done this, they have done that. But a number of them are not verified. And when the verification doesn't take place, as far as the primary ID is concerned, which is the NIMSI database, the record is invalid. So what we are asked to do is whenever you get those notifications that you have to go and link go and do it. You find out that when they eventually go to those centers to do the verification, something wasn't right in the initial record provided. And as far as we are concerned, the same record with us is just a secondary record. The primary record against which this should be matched is the NIMSI record, which is the primary identity for everyone.
So what you're saying is that at least 5 million people had to be cut off over the weekend?
Yeah, in the region of about 5-6 million, plus 5 million were cut off over the weekend. But we had the CBS directory to reconnect them, and those numbers are now being restored. They needs to be only for a short time. It will be like this forever. But at some point, we must come to a point where we all can proudly say we have a reliable national database, and that's where we're heading towards.
Do you have an understanding, or do we have a clear perspective as to the effect this temporary disconnection may have caused over the course of the weekend in terms of businesses, individuals who maybe had emergencies that could not be attended to? And, you know, are there ways that we can ensure that this doesn't happen again?
We saw the reactions. We are not able to measure the impact because, again, it's only individuals that know how this affects them. But we saw the reaction by people going to experience centers, to destroy experience centers, to vandalize equipment there, to harass the staff. We have a few cases of injury on some of those locations, which is quite unfortunate. Because there's no one whose number was disconnected over the weekend who would not say they have not received continuous notification about the need to go and verify the NIN record. There's no one who will say so. And there's no one who can come back to us after they have gone to do those verifications that will say when they go that they didn't find anything wrong with their records. Always there's something that has to be done, and there's something that needs to be done. And so in terms of the impact on the people, I can't gauge that. What we can measure is the reaction that we have seen. And that's the kind of reaction we saw at the various centers yesterday, and the tension that it created, damages that followed on the various sectors is quite unfortunate.
Is it also, I mean, from what the reaction that you saw yesterday, because 5 million people is quite a lot, 6 million, that's a lot of people to have been disconnected, and that includes businesses as well. Is it, you know, also possible, you know, is this, you know, starting to become a consideration that maybe this linkage can be done through other means? Individuals can do it at home. Maybe there's a website that you can go and link it by yourself, you know, that doesn't have continuous errors and frustrates you. And maybe you could also have vendors, telco vendors, help link citizens or subscribers. Is there a consideration like that, or do we always need to have people pile at these telecom offices?
There are many options and many channels by which you can link your name with your SIM. There are many of them. A lot of self-help services are available on the various operators platform and also on the platform of the NIMSI authorities. But the fact remains that when you do your linkage, you link your SIM record with your NIN record. And there's a need to do something in terms of harmonizing the data. You still need to visit the experience center. And I will tell you what my personal experience was about 2 weeks ago. I had an old number that I hardly used, but suddenly I realized that the number was disconnected. I went myself personally to the experience center to have that verification because I wanted to know what exactly is the matter. I've done the linkage a few times. Each time it says to me, it has been linked, but visit an experience center. It has been linked, but visit a center. And so I went 2 weeks ago. And I found out that all records harmonized except my photograph. The photograph of the person that is on the record was my IT staff who got the number for me in 2016. And we're also seeing is that the number of the seniors who are complaining, when they get to the experience, they will find something wrong with their record, either something not correct with their date of birth, something not correct with their name or an arrangement of their name, or something not correct with their photograph or something. There's certainly a need to do something. So the problem is not in the linkage of NIN and SIM itself. It's in the verification where there is a call to action. That's what people have refused to do. So people sit back to say, you know what, I have done it, but they kept getting notification, come and do your verification, come and do your verification. People just refuse to do that. It is at the point of doing the verification that they will know what exactly is wrong with the record. Because as I said, the same record is the secondary record, the main record is actually the primary record. And these two have to agree. So the records have to be the same, be it photograph, be it order of name, be it date of birth, and as the case may be. So what we are seeing is that people's records do not agree on both sides. So when they attempt to do the linkage, it's still said to them, visit and experience that. And then they will come to say, I have done the linkage of what is. Until when they go there, if there's something has to be done with their biometrics or their photograph or other private information that they provided, there's certainly a need to visit the center. So yes, there are lots of self-help services available, but when people do that and they still get a request to visit and experience it, or request to go and harmonize it, they need to attend to that call to action.
So we are talking about, I mean, you've just mentioned that there are people who, regardless of the several promptings to go and do the registration, do not show up until maybe the very dying minute. But I think that part of it is maybe because some people do not see the importance. So again, can you please walk us through why it is important and necessary for this linkage to happen?
First, as a country, we cannot continue without having reliable national database. And the bedrock of digital economy, anywhere in the world, is the reliability of the database of which people are identifiable. You can imagine what it will be, how much trust it will build in our systems by doing financial transactions and other related economic transactions. If I am certain that the fellow at the other end is who he or she says he or she is. Today, you have a lot of cases, things happening online, and people are not identifiable because the SIM card they have used for that kind of transaction is not seen and all that, or is not verified and all of that. So we need to come to a point where the critical infrastructure that we require, which is this national database, is reliable, is dependable, and is robust enough that it can sit, it can become the bedrock for our digital economy. Because you can't talk about digital economy without having credible and reliable national database. That's one. Number two, over the years, we've been talking about the security implication of not knowing who people are at the other end. So there are two sides to it. There's economic implication and there's also the security implication. And we must know who is at the other end of the call. It's very, very important. Without the reliable national database, we cannot identify ourselves and we cannot build the global digital economy that we aim to become as a nation.
I want to also ask, now we've talked about 5-6 million people, because that number really, bothers me. There has now been the extension, I believe. So can you share with us, if there's a new deadline that has been given by the NCC for these lines to be linked to their NINs? And are telco companies in Nigeria willing to let go of 5 to 6 million subscribers permanently if these Nigerians do not eventually go ahead and link their NINs to their SIMs? And how much damage will that, really bring to businesses?
Let me speak to it from the last one, and that is whether we want to let go of 5-6 million or more subscribers. The answer to that is yes. We wish to have them on the networks, but we want them to be identifiable. Because even for the protection of our own business and for the integrity of the national network, we must know to whom we are providing these services. We must know the people who are actually using these services. And it is only when you know who are the people on the services, who are using the service, who are identifiable on those lines, that you can build significant growth. Without knowing who are you are sitting on what we call a false ground. And so in that regard, to us, when you look at the security implication of not knowing who is on the network, we look at the social implication of we providing service to people that are not identifiable. We would rather let go with 5 million plus subscribers than insisting on having them. That's on that side. On the other side, in terms of the tenure of the extension of time, it's only a temporary lifting because of the implication of what we are currently going through as a country. We haven't had a deadline to that, but the deadline of 31st July subsists. We have only been asked to suspend the action, but I don't see that lasting for long. So the advice is that people should please go and link their NIN with their SIM records. If they don't have using the same service and they see a call to action, they should please do a follow-up action by going to those centers to complete that process, and so we can have they can have their services restored.
The success of the previous linkage that had been done for subscribers who have so far linked their NIN to their SIM, do we have a huge record of success stories of how that has helped digital security?
Yes, so we have quite a number, and we must thank those who have followed the process, including people like you and I. But to see, if you have 100 million good oranges, and you have a few bad in them, I mean, the few bad ones can destroy the entire group. And that's why we're saying that it is not over till it's over. It's not complete until everybody is identifiable and until everybody is fully registered. So it's something that we must own as a people. We must allow this process to happen. We must embrace the process for the greater good of both our national security and our digital economy.
I would like to also throw some light on some of the controversies that have arisen as a result of the disconnection that happened over the weekend. We've seen people who have alluded to the fact that there might be some subtle underlying motives. I want you to throw some light, especially because they think that the government has some mischief up their sleeve. So please throw some light as to the government's involvement or not, the lack of involvement in this disconnection. And just to quickly add, part of the speculation...
There is no such...
Sorry, if I may add, part of the speculation is that this has happened because they were in some way trying to ensure that the protest doesn't happen. These are one of the speculations that we've seen flying around.
There is no truth in the claim that the disconnection of service over the weekend is because of the planned protest. And we have issued a clear statement to that effect yesterday as an industry. The fact remains that the deadline was set for end of April this year. We sought extension of time from our regulator and it was granted to 31st of July. 31st of July is just a few days away. And regulator has said prior to now that we need to comply with the said extension. And that's what we are doing. So I'll say it's more of coincidental. But the people who want to propagate bad news and who want to create fear in people, they link this with the planned protest. It has nothing to do with it because records are there that this exercise was meant to end of April this year. The records are there that we got a 3-month extension with the lapse of the 1st of July. So this has been something that has been ongoing before the planned protest. So it has nothing to do with the protest at all. And as service provider, we provide service for people on non-discriminating basis, irrespective of your political or cultural or religious affiliation. Our contract with our social contract with subscribers is to provide services to all persons in all places at all times without any form of discrimination whatsoever and whatsoever. So whichever side of the divide we belong, we are obliged to provide the services, and that's what we do. So we have no part in the said protest. We are not under any instructions or under any obligation to work or support any of the sides. And ours is just to provide services. The issue of lynching and disconnection that took over the weekend has nothing to do with the planned protest at all. And we've said that we can make clear yesterday.
Is there any clarity as to why it happened before the 31st?
Yeah, because we've been on it. We've been on this journey since 2020. And each time the deadline is set because of non-compliance, when we look at the numbers, we look at the statistics, we have feedback to the regulators, they give us some extension, some extension, some extension. Another one was actually aimed to end at the 1st of December last year, but we sought extension until April. And it was at the end of April that we went back to the regulator and said we still need a bit more time to have this completed. And they gave another 3-month extension until that the 1st of July. And I must say to the public that at some point, we must draw the line on this immunization of seamen. We can't continue on this same road forever. So whatever extension of time is granted now, be that as it may, when we come to that point, we may not have any further extension. So I will going to appeal to people who have not linked their name with their SIM to please do so, following any of the options available. When there is a need for call to action after that has been done, they should please do a follow-up action by completing the process by visiting an experience center.
Benga Adebayo, thank you very much for your time this morning and, of course, for providing some clarity with the NIN SIM registration. We hope that, of course, many more Nigerians get theirs linked, and we prevent a recurrence of what we've seen over the weekend and yesterday. Thanks for your time, and we wish you a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. All right, we of course will take a very short break, and when we come back, we get into conversations concerning the August 1st End Bad Governance protest. Stay with us. As some Nigerians prepare for the August 1st End Bad Governance protest, the nation is divided, with some citizens backing the demonstration and others criticizing it. Supporters argue that the protest is a necessary step to draw attention to the country's economic woes, insecurity, and political challenges. They claim that the current administration's economic policies have plunged the nation into hardship and demand their reversal.
However, critics say that the protest is ill-timed and could lead to chaos and instability. They advocate for dialogue and engagement with the government as more effective ways to bring about change. The debate has ignited on social media with both #EndBadGovernance and #NoToProtest trending. Security forces are on high alert ahead of the protest. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has asked that all protest organizers communicate with the Commissioner of Police in their respective states. Let's take a look.
So we don't want the protest to take place, but if there must be protest, let the different protest group follow the guidelines that have been given. They should reach out to the commissioners of police in their states, make their intention known, and let the Commissioner of Police, all the commissioners of police have been directed to attend to all such groups who make themselves known that they want to protest. But my advice, general advice, is to shelve protest at this time. Let us give our country a chance. And that's why I ended my address with the prayer, may God of all creations help us to build our nation.
Joining us to have this conversation is the youth advocate, convener of Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, Dr. Charles Marindoti. Good morning, Dr. Marindoti. Thank you for joining us on the show. We've seen several arguments for and against the protest. Which side of the divide are you on? What do you support? Are you for the protest, against the protest, or for the protest with the guidelines?
Well, yeah, definitely there should be guidelines to every protest. Everybody knows this, that when a baby that cannot speak for itself is hungry, they just start to cry, and you can't tell them not to cry. You have to give them food. So, and hunger has precipitated this protest, which is unfortunate, which I feel could have been prevented. But, at this point, I am definitely for the protest. But everybody has to follow a guideline. You have to understand that your right to swing your fist ends where my nose starts. So, they should follow the guidelines. I don't think that it is standard practice anywhere in the world that you can obstruct main traffic, because people might have children and wives who need a surgery is about to have a delivery they want to take to the hospital, fathers with a heart attack, babies with terrible case of malaria or whatever. So they shouldn't block the roads. But protest is the right of every Nigerian, and I am in support of this particular protest, because this is a protest for survival, and we cannot deny the fact. I'm not in Nigeria, but I can't deny the fact that there is hunger in the land. I hear the price of food every day, and so I guess, like you said, I'm for the protest. I am the supporter of this administration. I supported this president, but I am for this protest because I think the administration has found a way to get itself here by not taking some proactive measures, and this thing has nothing to do with their economic policies, because I think those economic policies are good, but there were some measures that needed to have been taken to prevent this protest. They always use the example of a surgery being painful. Yes, a surgery is painful, but if you can put yourself in the position of a patient, if a surgeon should put its knife on you without potent anesthesia and adequate analgesia, you are going to punch that surgeon in the face. That was a sad experience I had to learn when I was a first-year medical doctor. when my anesthetic skill was still very, very poor. And that is what is happening right now. Because I've been on this program, I've had this conversation with both of you about food, about letting food to come in. When we have 75, used to, they just took it out right now, even though I've been clamoring for it for over a year, since 7 days after the president got into office. When you have 75% import duty on rice, and 85% on wheat, and 75% on sugar, and maybe about 75% on milk products, and then bread is expensive, rice is expensive, and there's shortage, which is also worsening it because it's not like there's so much demand. Nigerians are poor. It's not like our food demand is what it ought to be. But despite this low demand, the supply is so short because of, insecurity, every other thing. We are not producing food, and we have decided not to let food in. So people are hungry. They are about to revolt. Now, a flood is coming. You can't stop the flood, but you can channel the water, which is what I am hoping that this administration,
All right. Dr. Maridoti, can you hear us now? I'd like to interrupt you for a bit. At the beginning, I think your first statement was about how, you did say that protests, is the right of Nigerians, but you mentioned that no protest should be without guidelines. This statement, is it in reference to this particular protest, or do you mean protests in general? Is that, from what you have gathered, is that how it has been regarding all the different protests that are happening or that have happened in Nigeria? And what do you say to those who are protesting against a protest happening?
I think it's unnecessary. And sometimes I will be honest with you. I think protest against protest in Nigeria, based on my own pulse of the situation, is either by people who are directly affiliated with the administration or maybe sometimes sponsored. There was a picture I just saw of someone with the shirt and a few money that I was counting. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but when you're talking about protest, this should be the guidelines of protest everywhere in the world, whereby, people need to, the people in charge of the security need to channel the protests, let people know the alternative routes and everything. It needs to be planned. I didn't really like the antagonistic, position of some members of the administration to this protest, and I was happy that, at least I think a jury came out a few days ago and said everybody has the right to protest and they should go out and protest because it is the right of all Nigerians. But like I said, protest has to have all protests. Not, I don't know the specific guidelines. Maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know the specific guidelines that the IGP was talking about. I haven't read through it, but there are guidelines definitely that people should, have a route of protest. People who want to go about their normal day activities should be able to go there. You guys should not be prevented from coming to anchor this show, on August 2nd or August 4th, just because there's a protest blocking your way, because you will want to come, so, and that does not mean you are not in support of the protest. You might finish your program and go back out and join it. So it should be coordinated, because for the love of Nigeria, we don't want anybody to die needlessly. We don't want anarchy to occur, but I am not so optimistic about it, because I have seen the way Nigerian police handle protesters. They are not adequately trained in managing all of these things. And so I am really, really worried. Some of the responses that I've been hearing about, they've been going out packing tires as if tires are the only thing that can be burnt, or as if the places that they park tires to cannot be attacked, and then they get easy access to it, So and this is one of the reasons why I have been warning against this thing, especially hunger, severally, which is what has precipitated it now. But I feel like this is also an opportunity for the administration to come out and rise up to the occasions. Good leaders, the greatest leaders that we talk about historically, it's not like they were a bunch of geniuses. They were people who lived during difficult times and led effectively through it. So I feel like the government, the president, and the presidency in general can come out and own these moments. And if people are saying, and this is my own suggestion to the administration, if people are saying they want an end to bad governance, acknowledge it, yes, and give them an end to a bad governance structure, which is what I think is responsible for a gamut of for all the things going on in Nigeria right now. Give them an end to bad governance structure and engage them and work with them. You cannot stop this protest. People are hungry, and hunger is real.
Hold on, so, Dr. Maridoti, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I want to, ask, Mr. President still hasn't. I mean, we've heard conflicting statements. Bayo Ananigo is saying one thing. The IG of police initially said that the protest was sponsored by foreign mercenaries. Ajuri is saying another thing. The governors are saying, hold on. The imams are saying, it's just conflicting statements, across the country. But we haven't heard from the person who won the election, who was declared winner, and that is President Bola Tinubu. So I want your thoughts on what you expect Mr. President to be saying in this time. And if you believe that Mr. President has the right words to convince Nigerians that there is no need for a protest and that Nigerians are in safe hands.
The president is not known for his oratory skills. To me, in my own opinion, I think he's more of a thinker than a talker. So the president needs to definitely come out and address the nation. He has been making a lot of strategic moves, meeting with these groups and everything. But, the world has changed since the advent of the development of the radio technology. Now, back in the days, it used to be that monarchs don't talk to their subjects. As a matter of fact, it was a thing of shame to be seen, for a monarch to be seen talking in public. But, ever since, and if you've watched the King's speech and all of that, monarchs, since the Second World War and all leaders have had to talk to their subjects. And this is the information age. The president definitely needs to address Nigerians. And I'm thinking maybe this will happen once the protest starts and all of that, maybe to calm some nerves and all of that.
Why when the protest starts? If he's heard about the possibility of a protest for the last couple of weeks, why do you think Mr. President is waiting for the protest to start first before addressing Nigerian citizens? And again, you might argue that he's not known for his oratory skills, which is very different from what was said in the build-up to the elections. But what would you expect Mr. President to say? And do you even think that he has the right words at this time to convince Nigerians? Because the argument is, the reason that he hasn't communicated is either because he has poor communication skills, he doesn't have enough, advisors who would let him know what to say and how to say it, or there's really nothing that new that they have to say that Nigerians would believe. So what would you expect Mr. President to say now? And do you believe that he truly has what to say to Nigerians to convince them against the protest?
Well, personally, I don't know the president personally, but what I can say is
you campaigned for him. You believed in him well enough to campaign for him. So,
yeah, I campaigned for him and I support his policies, and that is why I was more about preventing this. Because think about it. This was one of the things why I was pissed off in February when the president was saying we should extricate ourselves from foreign food in February 15 of this year. This is the president that won the election with 36.6% of the votes. That means his enemies are essentially 2-1. So everything that to have been done to prevent this what's called protest from happening. Right now that is happening, I don't know what the president is going to say that people even want to hear. Because it is all about, building trust with the people. And personally, I must say this. I think one of the first conversations we had on this program, was about the subsidy removal. And I saw Joe Ajero talk about the president telling him, if you allow me raise the fuel price, then I can pay you $250. This shows that, subsidy has not been removed. And if subsidy has not been removed, but the administration is not saying it, then that creates a trust deficit. And I don't understand the logic, because part of the reason why the people are going on the streets right now is because they say the president has removed subsidy on fuel, but the subsidy on fuel has not been removed. If you look at the change in the exchange rate reality and the change in the price of fuel, you can do the regression analysis, the perfect one, that's the R square. So you can just multiply it by 3 and you see that it's essentially the same thing. So we are still paying subsidy.
In quick summary.
So this crisis.
Yeah, in quick summary, we apologize, because of time. So in quick summary.
Okay, so
you don't believe in, the way that the government has so far handled Nigeria's economy so far. You don't think that they've done the right things. Do you still believe that President Bola Tinubu knows what he is doing with a country as big as Nigeria and knows where he's taking us?
I differ with you on that point. I believe the president knows what he's doing about the economy. I believe the communication about what was being done about the economy was defective, and that is the reason why we are here right now. Because some Nigerians, the only thing that is happening is the removal of subsidy on dollar. And that's what has led to the increase in government revenue, and that's what's causing a lot of the increase in prices. But what should have been done initially is what is just being done like maybe a few weeks ago, which is the removal of those government-imposed punitive import duties on food when we don't have enough food in Nigeria. If that had been done, Nigerians would have had a little bit of leaves in terms of being able to buy food, feed themselves, and then the government policies that needed time to materialize would have materialized. I am still in support of all these policies. I just feel like the policy communication has been a little bit defective, and then now Nigerians are angry and they're about to take to the streets, and the government needs to efficiently manage this protest without any form of confrontation while protecting lives and properties. But without any form of confrontation, because someone that you want to roast should not rub oil on his skin. The president was a private citizen during NSAS, and he was blamed for calling the protest and shooting people at the protest. Now that he's the president, it is going to be easy to blackmail him, and which was what I was fearing.
It's not blackmail,
and that's why I'm hoping they manage this protest properly.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call it blackmail, because it's really just stating facts. He did support the Occupy Nigeria protest, which was less than a year after Goodluck Jonathan got into office. So if anyone mentions that, it's not blackmailing the president, it's just stating facts.
And just to mention that we of course know that the president has said that, has affirmed again that protesting is the right of Nigerians, right? But what we're saying is the body language that he has communicated so far indicative of the fact that he feels the pulse of the people. We're not talking about speaking through some media, it's speaking one-on-one to the Nigerians, speaking from the heart and letting Nigerians know that he sees and understands why they feel this level of agitation, and maybe give us an insight into what steps he's taking, maybe something to just calm the fears. We saw that happen in Kenya. Eventually, when William Ruto had to speak to them via his space on X, things had gotten out of hand, lives had been lost. So it's the body language, and maybe you can speak to that in 20 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like the president definitely needs to talk to Nigeria, and he will have to talk to Nigeria at one point. I would have said, be proactive, lead from the front, be proactive about talking to Nigeria. I understand what you talk about the body language. I believe the president, cares about the Nigerian people. I believe he understands, but I feel like, there was a bit of a communication gap, and there were some actions that were delayed. So yeah, the body language, body language is subjective, definitely.
So you want people to protest, but at the same time, you believe in Mr. President, you think that it's just a communication gap here and there, but you are fully in support of protesting because people are hungry. That's what we're saying.
Yes, I am fully in support of protesting because people are hungry. I just want it to be peaceful. You can't stop the protest, but you can ensure it is peaceful and work with the protesters. Start this restructuring thing, have the conversations with them, and let us end this protest and move Nigeria forward. We can always take advantage of a terrible situation.
All right. Dr. Marindoti, always interested in speaking with you. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll see you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Very interesting hour here on Breakfast Central. Let's share with you a quick recap of some of the things we've spoken about so far and also what comes up right next. This morning, Nigerians are divided over the August 1st End Bad Governance protest.
And away from that, we'll be looking at the NCC. We had talked about the NCC ordering telcos to reactivate all barred phone lines. Deadline has been shifted, so please go and do the needful.
Petrol price hits 1,300 naira per litre as depots run dry. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, let's share with you the topics we're looking at. President Tinubu approves sale of crude oil to Dangote in Naira. And we'll also be reviewing the newspaper front pages, and you can get to be a part of the conversation. We'll be sharing with you what Nigerians are saying on X regarding some of the big stories. Stay with us. And now it's time to find out what big stories are making headlines across Nigeria today. And joining us is the publisher of the niche newspapers, Ikechukwu Amechi. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
My pleasure. Kick off. How are you?
I'm well. Let's get into the papers. I just chuckled because I remembered how you greeted us when you came in.
Let's kick off this morning on this Nigerian newspapers. And then we'll, of course, get into other ones, including The Punch. This Nigeria this morning says Nigeria will save $7.9 billion annually from sale of crude oil in Naira to indigenous refineries, says the FEC. Dangote Refinery and others to get 450,000 barrels projected for domestic consumption. Planned protest, federal government to sell 50 kg of rice at 40,000 Naira at designated centers. And Senate to amend 2024 budget to accommodate 70,000 Naira minimum wage after President's assent. And we can also find here NIN verification, MTN subscribers vandalize Lagos office. Annex set to announce date for by-elections in 6 states. Last story, FCTIRS rakes 126.54 billion Naira in 6 months, closes defaulting businesses. All right, let's move over to the Punch newspapers this morning, so what we can find. Hardship protests. Security agencies begin massive soldiers and police deployment. NPF places operatives on red alert as the NCOS fortifies custodial centers. And the CDC deploys 30,000 personnel. I didn't know they had that many. Labour excited as Tinubu signs 70,000 Naira minimum wage bill. And also President orders Naira crude sale and marketers project price crash. Tinubu means well. Let's give him time to rescue Nigeria, says Tunjojo.
Time, Michael Cream, I not like that. Time
money. Care will direct suspension of NAMA's 800% charge hike. And also, PSC invites 10,000 new constables for training in August. 32 arrested for attacking federal government inspection team. Abuja politicians fueling banditry, says Benue governor. Final newspapers this morning, we're going to take the Daily Independent newspapers as quickly as we can. Protest starts in Niger as panic gathers momentum nationwide. Don't protest. I'm already meeting your demands, says President Tinubu. Federal government mandates VCs to protect staff and students and infrastructure. Top of your screen, NCC orders reactivation of lines affected by NIN SIM verification issues. We won't allow forces topple Tinubu's government, APC state chairman says. And also, President Tinubu signed 70,000 Naira minimum wage bill into law. Akpabio summons emergency Senate session over protest. And President Tinubu okays a sale of crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira. Let's just get straight into it. Of course, starting with the protest, the reactions to the protest. I've continued to say that we still haven't heard from the president himself. We've heard from everybody else. But, what are your thoughts on the reaction so far? Those asking that Nigerians be patient. And, of course, those saying that we need to give the president more time. And, of course, the reaction of the police.
I remember when, I think it was Professor Oloshenka, the last time he spoke on the Tinubu presidency, he said he was not going to say anything until 1 year after. I think that was the 100 days anniversary when people were beginning to evaluate how far President Bola Tinubu has come in terms of good governance or otherwise. Now it is 1 year. Nigerians are expecting the likes of Professor Oloshenka to actually say what President Bola Tinubu has been able to do in the last 1 year. Suffice it to say that those who are asking for more time, how much more time?
I keep asking the same question.
Do we need to begin to assess a government that has been there for 14 months? July will end tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that means for a man who took oath of office on May 29, 2023, he has spent 14 months. So, and people are still asking for more time. More time to do what? What will President Bola Ahmed Tinubu do now different from what he has done? You see, and don't also forget that those who are asking for more time are behaving as if President Tinubu was just plucked out of the distance. The truth of the matter is that these are people, those who are there now are people who have been in power forever, since 1999. 1999, President Bola Tinubu was governor of Lagos State and served for 8 years. 1999 or thereabout, Nyesom Wike, who is today the Federal Capital Territory Minister, was the local government chairman of Obiakpo. From there, he became a chief of staff to Rotimi Amechi, seconded to Abuja as Minister of State for Education, became substantive Minister of Education, came back to being a governor for 8 years, and now he's a minister. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, became a commissioner, I think almost about the same time in 1999. Went on, became a governor, a two-term governor, went to the Senate, then became a minister, and then he's back as the Senate President. So when people are asking for more time, what is it that these people, did they not know what they wanted to do?
Yeah. All right, hold on. Can you hold on? John, good morning.
John, can you please speak up? We are struggling to hear you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, gentlemen in the house.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. I am speaking right now. Good morning. Yes. We the youth in Nigerians, we cannot be patient with them. We are ready. We are warm up for the protest at all levels of the state. So what they are doing now is just a kind of driving the mind of the youth that we should not protest. Distributing of rice to various designated centers for people to go and buy at 40,000 naira rate does not change anything. It is a plan that's been laid on the ground that we must carry out the protest at every level. So they should expect that tomorrow the strike of the protest will begin in Benue State. And we are so excited that the Constitution back up this protest. So that is my opinion this morning. Thank you for carrying out the Breakfast Center.
Calling John.
You were talking about the not hearing anything from the president.
Yes.
In an ideal situation, President Bola Tinubu should be addressing Nigerians and trying to assuage the anger that is there, prevalent in the society. Instead, what we are saying, propaganda, lies everywhere. You said rice will not sell
at 40,000 naira a bag.
At 40,000 naira a bag, a 50 kg bag. Whose rice? Whose rice, for crying out loud? Are you going to seize all the rice, all the bags of rice in the market to go and sell at 40,000 naira? Don't forget, this is the same government that told us that they were going to distribute maize and wheat from. Where are these things? All these things are lies, because 2 days down the road, go to any place designated for the sale of these bags of rice at 40,000 naira, you won't see even a single grain to buy. The 20 trucks or whatever they said they were sending to each state, have they finished sharing it? Look,
not even sure if
the government must be honest with the people. You can't rule by propaganda and lies.
All right.
Yeah. You can win election using propaganda, using lies, using intimidation, but governance is a different ball game.
Yeah.
And this government has not stepped up to the table. Let us be very, very sincere with ourselves. This protest is, in fact, if you ask me, I think it is the most veritable mechanism for feedback in a democracy. There's nothing illegal about protests.
All right, kindly hold on. Gabriel from Ogun State, good morning, go ahead.
Good morning. I want to appreciate everyone in the studio. Firstly, let me appreciate the station for giving Nigerians rights to energy. On a serious note, we are not making progress as a nation. 1 year is enough time for a government to make a difference in policy directions where the country is heading to. None of the economic policies is heading anywhere or making sense to an average Nigerian like me. I'm not an economist, I'm an engineer. I want to see effects in the lives of the people, and there are no effects. We don't exercise patience with President Tinubu until all Nigerians are dead. Two things. A pronouncement was made during the inaugural speech. Fuel subsidy is gone. You are not the president. Why the haste? Why don't you study the parameters on ground for just a week before you take such a sensitive decision? This government tried to distance themselves from Buhari government. No. Tinubu told Nigerians that he brought Buhari to power. And he said it is installed in Ogun State. We were all there in Ogun State. I was in Abeokuta that day. He said, Miloko, it is installed. It is him. So he shouldn't pretend as if he's not aware of the 8 years Buhari spent in power. Tinubu was involved in Buhari government. He nominated most of those people who championed Buhari economic policies. He nominated them. And he consistently said Buhari is on track. Now they're taking power to distance themselves from the mess that happened in Buhari government. And what we call a mess is even better than what they are doing. Why floating the Naira in the parallel market when you are exporting nothing appreciable?
Very much.
We're crying a year ago.
All right, Mr. Mitchell, go ahead, please.
So the anger is real. The suffering is real. And rather than addressing those issues that are agitating, concentrating the minds of Nigerians, government is gaslighting. Bayo Nanoga will come and tell you P2B did this, Labour Party did this, IPOP did this. If you know those that are planning violent protests, why don't you arrest them? Protest is a right. It's a constitutional right. Nigerians have the fundamental right to associate freedom of expression. And protest, like I said earlier, is about the most fundamental, veritable mechanism for expressing feedback in a democracy.
So this is the result sheet of the current administration 1 year after.
It is. And make no mistake about it, those who are saying that the economy was already dead and blah, blah, blah before Tinubu came in, even if we agree that the economy was not in a good shape, Tinubu was brought in to make things better and not to make things worse.
And some of the arguments I've heard in that regard would be that Tinubu has, that regardless of who came into power, even if it was Obi or Atiku, that the outcomes we're experiencing now as a nation are the outcomes we still would have experienced. You know, I had seen a conversation where someone had mentioned that if we look at the Tinubu's administration, in a bid to highlight some of the positives, you know, he mentioned the minimum wage bill, which is something that's on the newspapers this morning. Tinubu signs minimum wage bill. You know, talked about student loan, talked about how, you know, a number of other things that they had talked about, and said that the truth is, at the end of the day, a number of these challenges predated Tinubu's coming in, and he cannot turn it all around in 1 year.
That is part of the lies and the propaganda that I was talking about. These guys are specialists in fibs, in telling lies. And you know, Olive, the worst kind of deceit is self-deceit. These guys are deceiving themselves, playing the ostrich, thinking that they are smart. They are not smart. In 2008 or so, when Obama came into office, America was on its knees, fighting wars all over the place. What did Obama do? Obama came in, and within the first 100 days, we knew where the government was headed, the bailouts that was given to the automobile industry that stemmed the bleeding in that industry. And within 100 days, America's economy that was headed south started heading north. Now, what we have, 1 year after, you inherited a bad economy, but at the time you came in, Naira was exchanging for about 700 Naira to a dollar. Today it is more than 1,500. So what difference have you made? By the time you came in, a bag of rice was about 20 or so thousand Naira. Now it is over 100,000 Naira. What difference have you made? By the time you came in, everything was better than it is today. So what bragging right do you have?
I mean, you know, the argument would always be that, well, you know, things need to get worse, you know, before they get better. We need to take tough decisions and, you know, whatnot, you know. But I think the main reason is, you know, that argument would make sense if Nigerians could see that there was sincerity in the steps being taken by government, that whatever suffering Nigerians are going through now is only temporarily. But what is missing is that actual sincerity with their
accountability.
Actions, and accountability with their actions. To tell Nigerians that whatever pain you're going through now is only temporary and it's going to get better. And so the whole idea of, oh, just suffer for a little bit, you know, seems like, you know, it's suffer forever.
You know, those in leadership positions today, unfortunately, are taking Nigerians for granted. Maybe it is because of the way they came to power. Because if you win election, if you were out there and you canvassed for votes and the people actually voted for you, in a democracy, the people are the kings. The government is afraid of the people because they have the right to either give you power or refuse giving you power. So, but we don't have a democracy so-called.
Yeah.
This is literally a dictatorship. And the government can come out and talk down on the people and do all manner. People are saying cut down on the cost of governance. Today we have 49 ministries, for crying out loud. We have 49 ministries. We are buying SUV cars at over 150 million for each member of the National Assembly. You are buying yachts, you are buying you are buying aircraft, and yet the people cannot afford to even eat one square meal. You are not cutting down on the cost of governance, and you're saying you are doing what?
Yeah. All right, quickly, let's quickly talk about the Dangote story. It says here on the Daily Independent, Tinubu okay's sale of crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira. So let's quickly talk about how significant that is. Dangote says that the government, you know, has, you know, decided to, of course, cut Dangote some slack and, you know, help him. You know, other people arguing that it's Dangote, on the other hand, that is helping the Nigerian government. So, you know, what do you think is playing out here?
This Dangote Refinery saga is also one of the most unfortunate things that we have witnessed in this Tinubu dispensation. Oh, okay, when did they realize that it is better, that Nigeria is better off selling crude oil to Dangote? This is a man who has a 650 liter...
650,000 barrels per day.
650,000 barrels per day. And you have done everything to frustrate him until the man shouted. Now, the 4 refineries you have, none of them is working, despite the millions, if not billions of dollars you have thrown into turnaround maintenance over the years. So why did it take a Dangote coming out to shout, going to US to buy this in? And the same government said, don't forget, Tinubu said he was going to continue from where Buhari stopped. And where Buhari stopped was that shortly before leaving office last year, Buhari came to Lagos, a fanfare, and inaugurated Dangote Refinery. You came out this month to say that the refinery was only 45% complete. So what is the truth now? Is the refinery now completed? Which refinery are you giving crude? Is it the one that is 45%? See, look, sir, no government thrives on lies and propaganda. You may succeed for some time, but definitely all the citizens cannot be idiots. Yep. And when you take the people for granted, when you take the people as fools, it will get to this head, and the head it has gotten to is that the people are saying enough is enough. The government has the capacity and can indeed change the trajectory by doing what is right, by addressing the problems it created. Yes, it may have inherited some problems, but it has created its own. And the problems it has created in the last 14 months are the problems that are driving everything. The subsidy is gone speech on the inauguration day and the floating of the Naira in an economy that is import dependent are the twin reasons that we are where we are today. And then the hiking of electricity tariff
along with it.
All this, okay, you can't tax your way out of the misery we are now, because the people you are taxing are the people who are suffering the pangs of whatever bad economic policies you have chosen.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, Olive.
Yeah, I mean, there are too many stories that, I wanted us to look at, but as quickly as possible, do you want to touch on, as quickly as possible, the signing into law of minimum wage bill, but also to talk about protests starting in Niger as well?
And that's the danger I foresee in what the government is doing. I would think that what the government would have done is to allow this protest to go on, but engage the people, try to assuage the hot feelings. But all these plots trying to stop people from protesting, I don't know whether the protests will go on August 1st or not, because the government has done so much infiltration, despite all the assurances they are giving now, it is the right of Nigerians now to protest. They are also taking very deliberate measures to ensure that the protest does not hold. So, and of course, assembling traditional rulers, religious leaders, getting youth organizations to say they are not part of the decision.
Including Nasari Dokubo.
Money is being spent to do this. The money that should have been spent in tackling the problems that Nigerians are complaining about. So I don't know who is behind this protest. I don't know whether it will still go on. But the danger in trying to suppress this protest is that it might spur a more virulent, much more spontaneous kind of protest, which is the danger I see in the protest that erupted in Niger State yesterday. when such kind of protests go global in terms of all the 36 states of Nigeria and Abuja, it will be a much more bigger problem for the government than this one that is being advertised. Government should do the needful. The president should address the nation.
Yeah, but what does he say? And that for me might be one of the reasons, it's a struggle for him to even address the nation. Because what new thing will the president say? I don't think it is a lack of words. I think it is a complete trust deficit because of the way the government has acted in the last 1 year. Because what new thing is Mr. President going to say to the Nigerian people that he hasn't said in the last 1 year, or his spokespersons haven't said?
Right, I know that.
What is the new thing?
Sincerity of purpose. What he has been doing in the last 1 year is to lie to the people. Can the president for once look Nigerians in the face and tell them the truth? We are sorry, we are in a very bad place, caused mainly by policies which I thought would take us from point A to point B, but it has not paid off as it should.
Yeah.
Is it too much to ask that the president should reverse subsidy removal? Because energy subsidy also is a security issue.
Yeah.
You can't wake up in the morning and remove the subsidy when there is nothing on ground to cushion whatever it is. Okay, you're talking about the student loan, talking about minimum wage. For crying out loud, whatever it is you are doing has already been overtaken by the skyrocketing cost of living. So there is, even if you start paying the minimum wage today, how does it solve the problems of the people? Minimum wage of 70,000 naira? And is it going to take care of medical bills? Is it going to take care of school fees?
Can't even buy a bag of rice.
Okay. Is it going to take care of accommodation?
All right.
Can't even buy a bag of rice.
I think we've circled on this matter a lot. I want us to move quickly to another story because we want to discuss as many things. Is it Uhuru for Dangote yet? The papers report that on the front page of Daily Independent, that Tinubu okay sales of crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira.
It will be good. It will be good if the government is sincere about it. But if a government that came out barely a month ago to say that that refinery is only 45% complete, is not telling you that it's going to give him crude oil to be paid for in Naira. We wait to see. You know, Olive, where this government has driven people is a situation where, like us has said, trust deficit.
Yeah.
Nobody believes what government says. And that is a very bad place anybody, any government can find itself. Because the social contract that exists between the government and the people is based on trust. Yeah. When you don't trust what the government says it is going to do, then there is a problem. If they come through with what they are saying, it will be good.
So let me ask this, all right? So there is the expectation that one of the things that Mr. President is meant to do is, for example, increase our crude oil production. To do that, of course, you know, OPEC quota is, I think, 1.4 million barrels or so. Our budget, projection was meant to be 1.7 million barrels. We're currently maybe 1.2. It is hard to believe that Nigeria suddenly, somehow, some way, just cannot move beyond 1.2 million barrels. The idea or the narrative is that crude is being stolen. So what would your response be to people who say that Mr. President knows that he must improve on crude oil production, but the problem is that there are too many factors mitigating against it. There's too many players. There's militants, there's deals that have been signed, there's the oil companies, there's the bunkery, too many of them that are just there that it's difficult for you to just put your foot down as commander-in-chief and say, no more theft, no more oil bunkering. All this crude belongs to Nigeria. We're going to raise our production to 2.5 million barrels. How difficult would that be for Mr. President to do? And carry the same narrative to our immigration and the goods that come into Nigeria illegally? Take the same thing to, different aspects of the country that you would expect that Mr. President will say that this is what needs to be done for us to increase our income, foreign earnings, and make a better Nigeria?
Because they don't care. Because they don't prioritize the welfare and well-being of the people, which, incidentally, is the primary responsibility of the government. The government is there for the welfare and well-being of the people. And why I remain skeptical about supplying Dangote crude oil and all that, where are they going to get the crude? Nigeria is not meeting up with its OPEC quota, like you said. And they are not meeting up not because Nigeria has no capacity, but because the oil is stolen. Crude oil is stolen. The crude oil theft is a reality. The government knows it. President Tinubu, for crying out loud, is the Minister of Petroleum. Don't forget that. So that if there's anything that is going wrong in that ministry, we hold the president accountable. He is the Minister of Petroleum. He calls the shots. So what are they doing? You're talking about militants and all that. These people are small-time players. The vessels that come through the ocean to come and take crude oil are not sponsored by militants. Who are these people who are stealing this crude oil? In any case, don't also forget that NNPC has also sold our crude in advance.
To take loans from
to take loans.
Afrexim and the like.
So where are they going to get the crude that they're going to supply to Dangote and others? This is why I am saying, let us see what happens. Nigeria's problems are Hydra-headed, and it is, like Chinua Achebe would say, it boils down to leadership. When you have a selfless leader, things will change. As long as we have this transactional kind of leadership, where everybody, what matters to them is what comes to me, and not the public good.
All right.
Nigeria is not going anywhere.
Mr. Ikechukwu, thank you so much for joining us for the review of the papers this morning. We'll go on a break, and when we return, we'll look at more stories this morning on Breakfast Central. In a bold move, President Tinubu's government has decided to sell crude oil to local refineries like Dangote using local currency. This means that instead of using dollars to buy crude oil, Nigerian refineries will now pay with the Naira. Dangote Refinery alone needs 15 shipments of crude oil every year, worth $13.5 billion. The government has promised to supply at least 4 of these shipments, and Afrexim Bank will help facilitate the transaction.
Now, joining us is finance and investment expert, policy analyst Naimeka Obiari, who, of course, will be joining us along with Ukadike Chinedu, the PRO Ipman here in Nigeria. Ms. Obiari, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. There seems to be, a back and forth, I've seen on X, where by another go, where when he put out the post, makes it look like the federal government is cutting Dangote some slack and, and of course, doing him a favor, in some regard. And then others, argue that it's the reverse. It's actually Dangote that is doing the Nigerian government a favor. So let's start with your thoughts on that angle. What exactly is playing out here and who should be grateful to the other?
It's actually a mutually beneficial transactional relationship. And kudos to President Bola Tinubu for coming out boldly to make this announcement. But it's also not sufficient for us to make this announcement. Those that are supposed to enforce it must ensure that these orders are enforced. Now, I will break this down. You know, one of the problems we have in Nigeria is that everybody puts his mouth into every topic without having a full grasp and understanding of the implications of whatever policy decisions and programs that the government have put out there. What President Tinubu had done, if the NNPC is made to adhere to this order, it will augur well for Nigeria. Why do I say so? Now, somebody made mention to the fact that we are not meeting up our open quota, which is right, because Nigeria has capacity to do about 2.5, 2.8 million barrels of crude every day. If you go to the CBN website, you will see it on record. In October 2010, throughout October 2010, Nigeria produced 2.88 million barrels of crude and condensate every day. And we exported 2.43 million barrels a day throughout October 2010. And those wells did not disappear. Those wells can be re-entered and all the rest of them. What President Tinubu had done will help us. The 445,000 barrels of crude that is allocated to domestic refineries will achieve two objectives. One, they are not giving Dangote and the refineries these products at any subsidized prices. They are going to be buying it based on the ruling international market rates. And of course, the official foreign exchange market rate, which is very, very accurate these days and which is not tampered with, will reflect the rate of exchange, which simply means rather than send it to somebody in Europe and receive the same dollar based on the same exchange rate, why not give it to Dangote here at the same exchange rate? And it will help us to achieve the second thing, which is refining everything we consume here. There is something people fail to understand. A barrel of crude oil contains 158 liters of diverse products. 46% of a barrel of crude oil is gasoline, which is the PMS. 26% is the gas oil, the popular diesel, and other fuel products. 9% is aviation fuel we use to fire our aircraft. Then we have 3% asphalt that we use on our roads. Basically, this 445,000 barrels, if we enforce it, that simply means from this volume alone, we can produce 32 million liters of gasoline in Nigeria. We can produce 18 million liters of gas oil. And mind you, I have said it, and I challenge anybody to contest this. Nigeria does not consume anything more than 35 to 38 million liters of PMS every day. Basically, what will happen now is that we'll be able to refine everything we consume here. And what Mr. President should do going further is not just enough to give Dangote crude. We should set up a task force made up of members of MOMA, DAPMAN, depot owners, IPMAN, to ensure that everything that is refined, these byproducts, are also sold to the depot owners and recycled back here in Nigeria. Let me tell you what will happen. Since 2015, we have had this unfortunate incident of having men in NNPC and NDPR, men that Buhari appointed, who miraculously moved up the volume of our PMS consumption from 28 million liters, that is actual consumption, to 52 million liters, to 66 million liters, to 98 million liters, to even at a ridiculous level in 2021 of 102 million liters a day, depending on the level of klepto-demons that possess them. Now, what President Tinubu had done will help us to checkmate these malfeasances that we have been having in the downstream, where reckless numbers are being bandied and subsidies paid on it. What President Tinubu has done will help us not only one, to reduce the games being played at the downstream, to help us to preserve our foreign exchange. Look at 2023. They told us that over $18 billion worth of gasoline was imported. And I tell you, only to understand again, Nigeria does not spend anything more than $10 billion annually importing white petroleum products. So we must give kudos to President Tinubu, and we must also ask those around him, because he is the president. He has given the command. He has given the order. The Minister for State for Petrol, Oil and Gas, and those around him, the Minister for Finance, and every one of them who controls the customs and immigration and all the rest of the Minister for Interior, they should all work together And those players like that man and the Moman and Ipman must insist on being a part of this. So it's a mutually beneficial thing. And beyond this level, we should also go further over the next 6 months. I have said to anybody who cares to listen, within 6 months to 12 months, we can easily ramp up crude oil to 2.4 million barrels. But we cannot do it under the current convoluted inefficiencies at the NNPC and at NDPRA. One thing Mr. President must do is to do a massive clearance. It is not going to set and clear out the team that Buhari put in place and put his own team, and then set up the process of restructuring institutionally the NNPC.
All right.
Get JP Morgan Chase, get Goldman Sachs, get Stanbic IPTC, and even Chapu Deham to start the process
of
working the NNPC.
Yes.
Invest 60% of the federal government hold it there, and the local refineries will work.
All right, Mr. Barry, I mean,
just Stanbic, by the way.
Unbundling NNPC is a very interesting conversation that we'll probably have on another day. But, you know, part of the aim of this, from what we've seen and we've read and heard, is to ensure that we see a stable price with the pump price of petrol as well as with the exchange rate. How soon do you expect this stability to kick in? And to what degree?
Only if Dangote starts receiving the crude today, within a refinery is not like a generator you start and you stop. All we need to do is the political way to muster the way to enforce this order. And also the members of the media, you also owe it as a onerous responsibility to help to put this on the front burner. The members of the fourth estate of the realm has a very important role to play. Even the citizens of Nigeria, even those in the platforms like X and Facebook, it's our job. You see, when Mr. President appointed ministers and aides, he did not appoint it as a sole proprietor or as an emperor. He appointed them on behalf of Nigeria. It's something actually the people. It's our job to daily analyze the performances of most of the heads of the FDAs and pass our own informed judgment based on empiricism. When we do this, when we put pressure out there, when we put the feet of the appointees of Mr. President on fire, Mr. President will have no other thing than to sack those that need to be sacked and retain those that need to be retained. I keep on insisting, even at the risk to myself, that the weakest link to this government is the NNPC and NNDPRA. And until Mr. President, see what Yemi Cardoso did in CBN. Of course, there were some innocent casualties. Yemi Cardoso did a massive clear out. And a lot of people left. Today, I think the same thing should be applied at the NNDP and the NNPC. If Mr. President wants his programs and policies to work, there should be a massive clearance. Every of the remnants that was left behind by Buhari, that was part of the mess from 2015 till now, should be let go. They should be exited.
Yeah, so you're saying, you know, that you don't have any faith in the management of the NNPC and the NNDPRA. And also remember that the NNDPRA CEO, hold on, the NNDPRA CEO, you know, did mention that Dangote Refinery is only 45% completed. So
as well as the quality, make reference to the quality of his product.
Exactly. So, you know, what's your reaction to that?
Osage, I think, like I said, the media, you guys should also need to go into the field, meet with operators in the system across the whole value chain and ask questions. Nigeria has never had it rough between 2015 till now. I give you an example, and I maintain this. Between 2000 and year 2009, when we had semblance of sanity under Obasanjo and Yar'Adua, Nigeria never consumed anything more than 28 million liters of PMS a day. Fact check me. We were doing crude oil output at 2.4, 2.5 million barrels a day. The madness started in 2015. We have not recovered from it. The truth is, there is no way in any Senate line. We had a group of people that presided over monumental incompetencies and looting are allowed to stay a day longer in their jobs when a new government is in place. Never. And I said to you, remember in 2021, the current GMD of NNPC told us gleefully that $1.9 billion worth of our crude resources are lost monthly to inefficiencies and differing. And what did they tell us to do? As citizens, we don't have any power. Basically, if you have people who are not led, see, when I was in the bank, one of my directors will always tell me, Emeka, ensure that your group meets your KPIs. If after the first 6 months I don't sit, I will fire all of you before the board fires me.
Right.
Mr. President has a duty to protect his government and protect Nigeria. Fire everybody who is not performing. Protect your government, protect Nigeria. You are the chief executive, and you must enforce it. His policies, I tell you, are spot on.
All right.
His programs, I tell you, are spot on. But the problem is that some of those who are supposed to help him are not pulling their weight.
Mr. Barry,
as citizens, as media men, to bring this thing continually at the front corner.
Mr. Barry, we understand your busy schedule, but please, we want you to commit that you will come back again. We want you to have a conversation with us about the protest, which we had hoped that we would have been able to talk about, but we've run out of time. So do you give us your word that you come back?
Let us go to our states and our local government, hold our governors accountable, hold our local government chairmen accountable. Food insecurity can only be achieved when the governors who control the land begin to support agriculture.
But we will come back to you again, Mr. Biari. Please, you have to come back again. You have to come back. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Nameka Biari. We look forward to having the next conversation with you, hopefully before the week runs out.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And this is where we say thank you so much for joining us. It's a wrap here. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Breakfast Central to have more conversations, even as we count down the hours to the proposed protest. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Musaugi Ogbonwa.
Have a good day.